Oh, Charlton Athletic picked up 3 points. Hmm. Do you mind? I'm trying to read the paper. Hey folks, welcome to another Broken Meeple review on my channel, and this time I'm looking at one of the most highly reputable solo games that exists out there. I've heard stories about this one and I've always been meaning to give it a try when Yastari put out the original version. Never got a chance to, people I knew have moved on with the copy and it kind of just fell by the wayside and I wasn't too interested in it at that point. Then Space Cowboys came out with a revised edition of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. This is a game that can be played, it says, from between, I believe, 1 to 8 players. We'll get on to the ramifications of straying too high to the extreme there. But this is a game that can be either played solo or with other people, and essentially you are solving cases that have been made famous by the original great Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes as a character, as a franchise. I love the TV series. I think it's brilliant. I like the books. I've read some of the short stories. I've read Hound of the Baskervilles and stuff like that. I've read some very entertaining Sherlock Holmes tales, and I love the whole deduction aspect and how he was such an amazing detective. There's just something about it. But this is essentially the game where you get to try out some of those cases yourself. You have all the materials available and you will do a lot of reading, and you will attempt to try and solve the case by following leads, by reading various paragraphs of narration. It's effectively like you're telling yourself the story, and eventually you will say, you know what, I've got all I need to do, and as soon as you've figured that out, you go to the back of a book and you read out the solution, as well as a tally of points that you are able to score based on whether you manage to uncover these particular elements of the case. You then compare yourself against the great Sherlock Holmes himself and just see how well you did. It is a full cooperative experience. As for how it plays, well, let's see, shall we? Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. This one is specifically the Thames murder and other cases. There is another one that has been released at the moment, which I believe is something to do with the Jack the Ripper cases and some other bonus scenarios. I have not played that one. I've only played through some of this one, certainly not all of it, but I've played through some of it. And, this is effectively a full reprint with some clarifications and some slight tweaks. But this is basically a reprint of the original Yastari Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So if you're going to start off anywhere, I recommend this one first. This is the one that I opted for because I was new to the whole system. Space Cowboys have done some, pretty cool stuff lately with the likes of time stories and various other types of, narration-based games. Unlock, for example, that's also Space Cowboys. Very cool escape room games. They've got this thing about doing some very cool, immersive, quirky puzzle games. Well, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is no exception. This is definitely a very cool deduction game. Not without its fair share of problems, but if you like deduction in any way, shape or form, you're doing yourself a disservice by not grabbing this, because this is essentially deduction hard mode. You get a lot of stuff to trawl through in this box. In fact, let me get some of it out for you. It's quite a hefty box, but I'll show you a few things. You have got a different case book for every single one of the, I believe, 10 cases in here. And this, I'm not going to show spoilers, relax. There's a fair amount in there of paragraphs. You get like a prologue to the story. You get paragraphs where if you go to certain areas on the map, you'll read the paragraph. And it's almost a bit like the whole Tales of the Arabian Nights and Near and Far and type sort of thing, where you have a storybook. So it's very interesting to sort of play through the case as if you were the character rather than Sherlock Holmes. On top of that, you have a London directory book, which basically has a giant index of all the various people and locations in London, each one with its own grid reference for a map. What map, you ask? Well, there you go. That map. You get this giant map of London with all these different numbers on it which correspond to different areas of the grid, the compass, like southwest, northwest, and also to that book I showed you a couple of turns ago, which was, this. So if I decide, you know what, I need to go to the American Embassy, and I look down here, and I don't know if it is there, but, and I see 36 southwest, so 36 SW. I go to the book, and I read a paragraph 36 SW. If it's not there, I know I'm wasting my time. If it is there, I might still be wasting my time. You might literally just get a thing that says, you knock on the door. There is no answer. Literally just that. A false lead, if you will. But most of the time you will get a bit of story and it will give you some more clues about the case itself. The cases are pretty varied, it's not all just simply, oh, so-and-so murdered someone else. There is some variation here. But, to give you an idea, the first one, called the Munitions Magnate, is a straight-up murder case. So a murder has been committed. Why? Here's the people you need to think about. Here's some evidence. Here's a notebook. Here's a briefcase. Here's the scene. Here's the prologue. Go from there and see what you can figure out. Now, the rules themselves are actually fairly straightforward. The book for the rules is not that big. Most of them are talking about the sort of scoring, and half of this is a lecture. This is a lecture story, so basically like another prologue, if you will. So really, you've only got to read, say, 2, 4, 6 or 7 pages worth of rules before you can get started in here. I do urge that you read them though, because you want to make certain you don't mess it up for yourself. But yeah, this is a very easy one to get into. It's not a difficult game to grasp in terms of its complexity. It is, however, a difficult game to do well in. Either I just suck at deduction games, or I'm not very smart, which is also possible, or this is just generally very hard. Because you've got a lot of reading to do here, and I mean a ton. You will read the prologue, that'll be a good 3 to 4 pages worth of writing. You've then got all those narration bits, you've then got the map, you've then got the address book to try and find stuff. You even get, and I'm not joking here, you get a double-page newspaper spread of the Times, around that point. It has a date and a year. It has all sorts of text on it, all sorts of little snippets and that, anything from, missing, 1 diamond ring, to, the robbery took place in so-and-so street, inquire within or something, and, right down to, this was the cricket scores, and this is who won the cricket. Literally anything from useful information to complete red herrings are just in this paper alone, and you need to read this. And when you go through the cases, you have to refer back to older newspaper articles in case there was a clue in one of them that helps you in the current one. Seriously, this is not an easy game to do well at. You don't really win it, you just try to get as high a number of points. I did the first case on my first playthrough, and I was feeling confident. I thought, yeah, you know what, I think I got this. Yeah, it was you, and it was for this reason. I found out these other clues. Alright, let's go to the solution. And then, I got the gist of it right. I got the culprit, and I got the idea of what the case was about. But it asks you some questions, and you're supposed to have an idea of the answer to those in order to get the points when it reveals the solution. There was quite a few of them that I was like, is that part of the scenario? I missed that. You'd be surprised how much you can miss. And that's when taking quite a few leads. Now, on that note, stress the point, do not play this game trying to beat Sherlock Holmes. It will not happen. Sherlock Holmes, basically the way the scoring happens is you have a minimum score based on how many leads you followed compared to Sherlock, and then the various facts that you found out about the case represent the rest of the score. The first case, I followed 9 leads before I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm kind of happy. And those 9 leads all gave me information. It's not like they were wasted time. But it said in the answer that Sherlock followed 4. 4 leads. And some of those leads were ones I followed and one wasn't. But even so, you have got to be positively clairvoyant to be able to solve this in the time it took Sherlock Holmes to do it. At least from this printed perspective. You have to come up with all sorts of stuff on the fly, and even the smallest detail in a prologue could actually be relevant to the case. You cannot ignore anything. You can't afford to ignore anything in case it's useful. And when you're by yourself, that's a lot to take in. But yeah, don't try to get Sherlock Holmes score. It's just not going to happen. I would struggle to actually believe anybody who says they have managed to beat or equal Sherlock in this game. Just forget about whether you get close to him in points, because it will just debilitate you. It'll be a bit of a downer as you go through this. And the game deserves the credit. It's a fun game to play. The deduction and the mystery solving is ripe with theme and immersion, and it deserves to be played. But don't try to see this as I am better than Sherlock or I'm miles worse than Sherlock. Just play it, see if you got the gist of the case down, be interested in how it ended, and then just go, oh yeah, I missed that. That was cool, but, we did all right. I think we got the main gist. We just didn't find every minute detail. And you will get a kick out of this game. There are 10 cases, as I mentioned, so the replay value is very high. It'll take you a long time to go through all these 10. I haven't even gone through all 10 myself. I've gone through 4 or 5. I've gone for about halfway through this box by now. It's taken me a while, but it's been great fun since then, and I still want to go through the other 5 cases, and when I'm done with this, I want to go and get that Jack the Ripper box and go through those as well. This is a great solo experience. Because I've not actually, I played this once with other players, and it's not something I really want to repeat, because this is a common complaint with this game by many people, and it's the same problem I had when I played the Escape, what were they called? The ones by Cosmos, Exit, the Exit games. Same complaint I had with that, because with those games you only had so much to read and so much to do, and so when you had too many people, some people would be sat around not doing much. Well, here it's a similar thing, because one person could be reading the paper, but there's only so much to read on here. One person could be reading the actual book of paragraphs, and one person might have the original and might have the map, but there's only so much you can have each person doing separately, apart from just going back over previous information. So you can get away with playing this with maybe 2 of you, 3 of you, I think. But if you start going to 4 or more, it's just too crowded, there's just not enough for people to do, and it's not a short game. I mean, by yourself, you can wrap it up in a good 60 minutes, maybe 90. But yeah, with multiple of you, this is going to be an event-style game. And, it will certainly take a while to play. But it is good fun, just I'm a little bit worried about playing it with multiple people. But for most of you out there, you're probably wondering what it's like solo, and it's great solo. Granted, you have a lot to read, you have a lot to absorb, and it's going to be a mind bender. But the immersion is solid, the theme is ripe. It is a brilliant deduction game. This doesn't hold your hand. This will slap you in the face if you get stuck. And it's not going to go, oh, maybe you should try and go over here. Go over here. You really want to go there. Nope. Here's your stuff. Go with it. Just figure it out. So, Sherlock Holmes, solid deduction game. Very hard, very brain-burny. Not great with that many players, but certainly if you want a challenge, this is one of the better solo games out there, and definitely a recommended one to try. So I'm going to give Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective a solid, excellent 9 magnifying glasses. This one is definitely one for deduction fans. It's definitely one if you want a challenge, and if you're a solo gamer, this is definitely, most definitely one that you should grab in order to have a good play around with it. It will last you a long time, and there's more to come, and there could be more expansions on the horizon, because let's face it, all you gotta do is just come up with some more cases. So That's it for me and Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I'm going to open up another one of these cases, actually. I feel like I need to test the brain a bit more tonight. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next review, and take care. And even if your brain melts and you don't solve the mystery and the robber gets away, it's still only a game at the end of the day, so what can you do? See you next time, guys.